A significant correction is occurring in most financial markets, including Bitcoin and altcoins. Is this a passing phenomenon, or should we be concerned? What takes place after that? Tom Lee provides us with an update on the precise cause of the world financial crisis. Pay attention.
Strat's Tom Lee says it's temporary, a temporary moment of pain and a buy-the-dip opportunity. He joins me now, Post 9, to make that case. Good to see you again. I'm glad you're here in person, too. So you don't think that much changed this week?
I think the narrative got muddled because that CPI report was a disappointment, but it was driven by what we'd call stubborn components, shelter, auto insurance. You know, the median core CPI component now has only 1.7% year-over-year inflation. I mean, inflation is normalizing. It's just not evident in the total picture.
Therefore, even though inflation is starting to normalize, a few specific industry verticals cause the CPI figures to be disappointing. That's the CPI then. How about PCE? That's an additional crucial economic indicator. The more important question is it really harder than some people like Tom Lee imagine to get the economy and inflation back on track? Watch what he says, please.
The PCE in a couple of weeks is going to be more favorable, we think, than these latest inflation reads. And I know what everybody says about it being the Fed's favored measure on where inflation is. But are you entertaining the idea that this is not going to be as easy as you once thought it was going to be for this last mile, and therefore the market can't do what you once thought it could?
I'd say that that's really the narrative disruption this week, because now the Fed has 3 inflation reports that it can't argue against that are a little hotter than expected.
And the bulls can't really explain them away either, can they?
That's right. So what we would need to see is April and May CPI improvements, which is in the future, and then keeps the Fed from standing in the way of the economy. What we don't want is a Fed that wants to further slow the economy, which is rate hikes. And I think if they just do even one hike this year, it's still actually a good environment for stocks.
One cut, you mean?
Sorry, one cut.
Yeah, let's be clear. See, that's a Freudian slip. I mean, because the greatest fear of all is that they're going to have to hike again, however remote that possibility seems today. And even if you put into the soup all the Fed commentary that we've gotten of late, just seems to be push off rather than push up.
That's right. And I think it's, at the end of the day, it's even this CPI does look like it's somewhat sticky. PCE, as you pointed out, is more cooperative than PPI is, and measures like Truflation show inflation much softer, inflation expectations much lower. So I think at some point we could also just ask, is CPI a bit aberrant? I'd say that there's upside to earnings. I think multiples can expand. I don't think 5,200 is the ceiling for stocks this year.
What feels like the right ceiling now?
I know this is going to be tough for investors to embrace it, but I think something like 56, 5,700 is probably where the S&P exits the year, maybe even higher.
Much more backloaded into that than you once thought?
I think it's still backloaded because we'll have the cuts behind us, and we'll have visibility into 2025 earnings, which probably could be 270, maybe 280 next year.
Well, when you say we'll have the cuts behind us, are you so sure? Right? So let's just take June off the table. For argument's sake, no June.
Yeah.
You think the first one's in July?
Or it could be September. But
that's why I asked you if the move in the market that you just suggested is backloaded. Because you're not going to get a big move until you see the first cut. At this point, now there's a lot of disbelief in the market.
That's right. And Scott, one thing to keep in mind is the probability of a June cut has been reduced, but it can come back if we have a good April and May CPI, because then it's going to put back into focus what is the trend in CPI. It does feel stubborn when you look at January, February, March.
All right. Thus, Tom is remaining optimistic about the remainder of this year. Recall that this is Tom's estimate for the price of Bitcoin. It's trending in the right direction thus far. Do you believe he will be correct?
I think in the next 12 months, something over 100,000, maybe 150,000. And, in the next 5 years, again, there's a finite supply. And now we have a potentially huge increase in demand with a spot Bitcoin approval. So I think in 5 years, something around 500,000 would be potentially achieve.
Keep in mind that there will soon be a Bitcoin halving. The most bullish price action typically occurs after this. It usually takes 6 months after this for Bitcoin to reach all-time highs. After this, a cycle top typically appears 9 or 11 months later. We therefore still have 6, 9, or 11 months of bullish activity ahead of us, if history is any guide. How do you feel? Since it seems like this cycle is a little different, don't you think? What do insiders in the industry think? Richard Tang is the new CEO of Binance. He assumed CZ's role. He sees things from an insider's perspective. Knowing is his business. Hear what he has to say about how the cryptocurrency market is doing right now.
This cycle is a bit different from past cycle. I mean, you have been involved in crypto, so you know. Crypto normally go through 4-year cycle, right? Price movement cycle, which coincide with the halving, which is going to take place in about 9 days' time for Bitcoin. It's normally after about 6 months after a halving that you see a new all-time high in terms of prices. But this time around, it happens even before the halving, right? Which is why it's unique in terms of market cycle. And one of the key reasons is really the introduction of the ETF, where you bring in so many new users, new liquidity, right? I think I saw some figure yesterday that 14 billion net inflows has gone into the crypto ETFs in the States, right? So those are important numbers, but it's still very early days because that is just the first part of it. With that, there'll be much more financial innovation, there'll be more product structuring that you come through. You see a lot more independent houses now being able to advise and their clients to do some allocation into crypto. The foundations, the endowments are going to come through. On our side, we see a lot of TradFi firms, right? The traditional trading firms, now adding crypto as an additional asset class into their suite of products that they trade constantly on a daily basis. And we start to serve them as well, right? So those will bring in new liquidity pools into this industry. So those are key positives. And we are very bullish, right, of the way forward. But we are still in the building stage. So we look forward to working closely with the rest to build this industry together.
Where does the CEO of Binance believe the price of Bitcoin is headed? He is being pushed here by the interviewer. Richard is questioned by the interviewer regarding the 100K price goal.
Many have told us this year Bitcoin will hit 100,000.
Well, there are different financial projections. I mean, if you look at the Standard Chartered projection, is what, 200,000 or 250,000 by next year, right? So you have seen price point of 100, I've seen price point of 120. So all these are financial projections. What's important is we always stress to our users, do your own research, right? Just don't be led by others. Don't just hearsay from your friends, from people that think they're in the know. Do your own research, use your own money, be prudent with them, invest responsibly.
Do you have a price in your head this year?
I have a price, but I think it will exceed my price.
In your own opinion, what is it?
My price last year, before the introduction of the ETF, I didn't see the impact of the ETF. My price last year is I would have thought Bitcoin will end at about 80,000 this year. But I've revised my price upwards slightly because of the inflow that I'm seeing. So,
in addition, be sure to subscribe to our channel, Daily Videos, so that you can stay up to date on everything related to the cryptocurrency market. Subscribe to our channel, Daily Videos, if you're interested in learning how to make money with cryptocurrency.